Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. We are here today to talk about losing in general and how being a loser can actually help you be a winner. I know it's kind of a weird concept, but really when you look underneath it, losing can lead to success. Now, before we actually talk about how that works, I just want to talk about the concept of losing itself and why people get so salty and angry. Recently, I talked about how they will be instituting a direct messaging system into Magic Arena, but you can only use it between friends, and I expressed how I was happy with that, because in all honesty, just the way that people use emotes on Arena can be incredibly obnoxious, and from experience that I've had on MTGO with the open style chat system, people can be incredibly unpleasant when they lose their games, to say the least. People act awfully, just awfully, with this sort of little messaging system. Now, why are people getting so worked up, right? You think to yourself, this is just a card game. And that's honestly the rationale we should all have. But it's easy to say that. It's another thing entirely to wrestle with human nature. The reason that we react so strongly to loss is it's a survival instinct, essentially gone kind of haywire in today's society. What you have to understand is, from an animal perspective, remove civilization and put us on the same kind of level as foxes and goats and lemurs and butterflies, all the other different animals out there that just have to live. They don't have an internet, they don't have all this good time, they haven't circumvented natural order, natural law, however you want to look at it. Just think of like an animal existing in the natural world and what drives it has, right? Like if you take us and throw us out in the woods and we don't have civilization, then our priorities shift, because what you need to focus on to survive is very simple. You need food, water, and for your species to continue, you need mates, right? Those are the main driving factors of all species, essentially, right? That's just how it works. You need food and water, and you need to make more of you to keep your species going. That's the deal from an animal nature. So under those circumstances where you're living out in the woods or doing any kind of those things, anytime you're going to be getting into like a contest, right? Any kind of like challenge, however you want to look at like a Magic the Gathering game, it is a contest. It's two people contesting each other to see who can win, right? It's a challenge against each other. Whatever terminology you prefer, conceptually you get what I'm saying, right? Well, these sort of challenges in the real world, removed from our particular society, in the natural animal world, would strictly pretty much be for access to like hunting grounds or particular like food, like, all right, we're gonna fight over this ox that's just been downed, whatever it is. These sort of scenarios in the animal world where it's just water, food, mates. These are the things that you fight over. These are the reasons that you're contesting with other individuals, for the most part, right? I'm speaking in generalizations, but this is just to share the overall concept. So these are what drive you. Underneath it drives a lot of our behavior still, right? There's so much of what we do that's tied into that, because it's all about survival of us and survival of our species. That's the deal. So you get a scenario where we're essentially just animals, and any challenge has real world consequences. Our brains haven't rewired themselves for this sort of technological age where you can just be playing like, check it out, I'm a wizard and I'm gonna shoot a fireball at your monkey, kabloo! I blew up your monkey and now I'm attacking with my super ox. Yeah, go poke him, ox! And like your brain converts that into, we are struggling right now to either get food, water, or a mate, which we need to survive. Like, it essentially taps in to a survival instinct in mankind. And it's like, I need this win, it matters. It literally feeds into the same part of the brain, right? Because we're not prepared for this. That's why people get so upset. That's why people get so salty, worked up, spam the emotes, send angry messages, run on the timer, all that sort of stuff. It's because that if you don't sit there and tell yourself, yo, legit, this is just a game. Like, yeah, it's frustrating to lose. Honestly, one of the most frustrating scenarios for me is just not getting any lands. But that's an aside that really has nothing to do specifically with what I'm talking about here today. Either way, that sort of guiding principle is Like what causes people to be so upset about losing. And it's why it makes you feel like uncomfortable, unhappy, frustrated, whatever the emotions that you feel, because it can range. Sometimes it can be anger, sometimes it can be unhappiness, whatever it is. When you lose, you'll have these gut reactions. And that's what's causing it. It's the base animal level wiring that's saying, hey, we just lost something important. We didn't get access to what we need, when it's really just a game, right? So once you enter that framework and go, okay, I no longer have to worry about the same level of ego on the line or whatever by going, this is just a game, I can play it, enjoy it, losing happens, then you can start to turn and look at the actual benefits of losing, because there are some significant benefits in terms of helping you to improve your performance. Yes, if you take it as a singular event and there's nothing further extrapolated from it, then a loss is just a bad thing, because you can't win now. It was just this one time and you'll never get to do it again. There you go. So even if you learned something from it for that game, it's not really going to help you. But that's not how Magic works, right? I think the best example I can think of for this is how I explain to people about arena drafts and how they should get involved with them. Because if you haven't seen my videos, basically what I say is arena, the best way to grow your collection for free is to play in drafts. Because most of the time you're going to end up with an extra rare or breaking even the same way as if you had bought the gold for the packs, but you get some gems from the experience and you get to actually play in the draft. And a number of people would express to me, I'm no good at draft. I don't feel like I have any confidence. I don't know what I'm doing with it. I only know how to play regular constructed Magic. And it's interesting, first of all, that they're just like, I don't know how to draft. It's like, you already know how to play regular Magic, so you're going to be able to play in the draft. It's just a matter of putting the deck together. Now, when a new set comes out, most players are on roughly even footing in terms of knowing what actually the best cards are. There are some cards where you look at them and go, okay, obviously, this is going to be insane. When it comes to like bomb rares and stuff like that, then it's a lot easier to go, that's going to be amazing, no worries. But when it comes to the commons and uncommons, there's not a lot of people who know immediately by looking at the entire set, okay, this will be the strongest, this stuff doesn't matter. It's learned through exploration, right? And part of that exploration is just failing. If you suck at drafting, that's fine. Get into drafting. It's actually way easier to learn like a single format than it is to learn standard. Legitimately, like you look at a draft and each set only has a few hundred cards in it instead of the few thousand cards that are involved in standard at any time. So you've got a smaller pool to deal with, which makes it easier overall for you to process. So you've got that, but more importantly, you can learn about that format really fast. Basically, you just play in one draft, and if you lose against 3 different people, you've just probably been shown 3 different ways to win, right? Each one of those losses taught you at least one thing probably about what cards matter in the draft. Now, it may be a case if you just get land screwed each game, then you're not going to be able to learn anything really from that. Let's be real. Like, all you can learn, well, I guess you can learn that Magic is frustrating and that there is random variance. But actually, you know what? In a way, if you hadn't figured that out, that could also be heartening, because you'd realize there will be times where my opponent will also have a similar hobble on them and I can capitalize on that. And I mean, for me, it's not the greatest feeling. Like, I don't like playing against somebody who has no lands, unless something's on the line. If I'm playing in an event and it happens to them, then I'm like, whatever, I don't care. In like an actual tournament, it's not about like, I hope everybody has the most fun. It's kind of like, I want to win the event and it'd be nice. I'll take advantage of whatever's coming down the pike. So either way, you can you can see that you can learn. I mean, you can learn a little bit from getting mana screwed, but that's not really going to help you that much overall. But in terms of like, when you start out, you start a draft, you look at all these different colors and you go, I don't even know where to begin. So you just pick some colors and play with them. And then you notice the synergies that your opponent has picked up on. And it'll happen sometimes where you'll be playing a deck and you'll just notice even yourself, oh wow, check it out. I can do this and this, put these together. But if you're consistently getting beaten by certain things in the draft, you will start to realize, wait a minute, these are way more powerful. Why do I keep losing? And then you go, wow, I've noticed a lot of my games involve creatures just being kind of landlocked, and we just kind of wet noodle each other on the ground with nobody getting through. But then he got out this flyer and started nailing me in the head. And then you start to notice a pattern of that. It's like, okay, I keep losing to flyers. flyers are pretty strong, it seems like, in this format because there aren't many of them and there aren't many answers to them that are good. So here we go. Let's go with this. And that's just a very, very obviously basic example. But the more you lose at draft, the more knowledge you're gaining. And at a certain point, you will just go, okay, I know enough to grab this and this. And then you will start to be able to compound on top of the knowledge that you've gained from losing. You'll be able to gain knowledge in how to strategize and use those tools that you've seen other people use. So you'll be able to do what they did, emulate that behavior, and also add your own on. So in that way, failure can actually be a really great aid to you in terms of it's free to learn. You know what I mean? Like, yes, the draft cost you to get in there, but all this knowledge you're gaining, that's nothing. It doesn't cost you a thing. You just played the games, and while you're losing, you're learning. So instead of sitting there being frustrated and going, I hate this, I do not enjoy the feeling of losing, this is really bothering me, you can instead try and focus on, okay, why am I losing? Like, what is causing the loss? And understand that sometimes you lost the game turns ago, and you didn't even see that critical moment where you're like, actually, I didn't lose now. The game turned about 3 turns ago when he got this that gave him the gradual shift of the board. So it's really just taking your loss and turning it into knowledge. And there's a fair bit you can learn. That's one of the things that I find whenever a new draft season starts is I learn a lot about the particular format, because I just go in all honesty, when I draft, I do it super simple. Usually whatever the first rare is in the first pack, I end up playing that color. If the rare is absolutely no good for draft, then I don't. But if it's playable at all, I usually pick that as one of my colors. And if it's multiple, like if you have Kuranos, Hound of Athreos or whatever, he's white-black, right? So I just built a white-black deck. I drafted all the white-black cards and just took out the other cards of other colors, and that's it. I didn't bother to trim it down to 40 cards, and I just play with it. And that's what I do for most of the drafts. And I learn as I play in the first number of them, okay, wow, that was really strong. That destroyed me. I'm also learning about what I have, but a lot of it is watching what my opponents have picked. Because when you get to see your deck over and over, but each game is bringing a whole new deck and a whole new perspective and like a different individual who's made the choices behind the deck. So you get multiple perspectives, even if you just lose perspectives, you get multiple perspectives. Even if you lose 3 games in a row, you've just been taught by 3 different people different ways to beat people, because whatever they did just beat you, right? So you can at the very least emulate that, and all you're doing is copying what works to begin with. And as you do it over time, you'll start to realize what works. You'll start to go, okay, you know what? I feel like I can prioritize this type of card over this type of card because I've seen how it works. Or you can go, you know what? I've noticed in this particular environment that mill is very strong. There's lots of little things that will combine together to make your experience more enjoyable. And another aspect of losing that can lead to something good is just how to put it. Have you ever played like an old school like Mega Man game or something like that, where you have to progress through a difficult level that requires multiple attempts? You have to do multiple attempts to get through the level. And by the time you get to the end of the level for the first time, you're barely alive, right? You barely have any of your health left, and you just kind of limp through the door into the boss's room, and then you just get ragdolled by the boss. He just obliterates you right away, right? And then you keep going through the level, because now you've made it through the level, you can make it to the boss. So now you keep going through the levels, and each time you get to the door, maybe not every time, but over time you notice you have more health as you get to the boss, and you last a little bit longer. You learn more about the boss. And then eventually you have that glorious moment where you make it through the level, and for the first time you actually defeat the boss. And there's that moment where you just feel so exalted, like, oh, this is incredible, this is amazing, right? That's an amazing feeling. If you contrast that against, let's say you've played a game with cheat codes or something like that, I would always save any kind of game cheats or anything like that until after I had beat a game. Because I found that with like cheat codes or anything like that, once you have everything handed to you easily and there's no struggle, there's nothing to overcome, there's no feeling of success. Because remember, you're just tapping into that same sort of like struggle part of your brain where this is a challenge and the end reward is something of value in the animal world, right? It's the same kind of reward. You can keep that on the good side. You just want to get rid of it on the negative side. But either way, the point that I'm trying to make is that you can find yourself butting heads against the same kind of deck over and over and over and go, I am so tired of running into mono red rush, or I'm so tired of running into white blue control, just because whatever it is happens to be a really strong matchup against your pet deck, or whatever it is, you just get really frustrated when you run up against it. Well, the opposite to that is when you actually manage to pull out a win against one of those decks, that's the moment where you're yelling at your screen like, that's what you get! That's what you get! It's one of those moments of glory. Do you know what I mean? I was just thinking about this. I was looking at some people talking about like salty comments, and I was reading through some stuff and going, I remember all this just from when I played on MTGO, and it's just ugly, and it got me thinking about this whole scenario. So I thought I would come and share my thoughts on losing to win with you guys. I am interested in other perspectives on what I have to say here for sure. So share those in the comments below. Want to give a big shout out to my channel members and patrons. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. And now I am off to go and get angry and feel like a loser playing Arena. Goodbye for now.